Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good evening to everybody.
Hello.
Alright, so this is us again, DJ Nazmi and
DJ Ain.
we are from the slot
Tissues.
VIP. Yeah, the name has been changed from past semesters.
Yes.
Yeah, before this we were just tissues.
Now
Yeah.
we're being upgraded.
Like Spotify Premium. Okay, so last week, Ain, we talk about
Parenting.
parenting, a Koku subject in the UM
Parenting in the 21st century.
in the 21st century.
Yes.
We talk about some current issues that not funny, of course not funny, but
Dangerous, I would say.
dangerous and those kind of issues that you see on Twitter or social media every day. And we saw a mother uncle putting a child into the
Washing machine.
and that child got locked inside. And we talk about a lot more, and what should the potential parents do in
To
preparation
take care
for
of
being
their
parents.
children.
For
Yep.
parenting in the modern era. And so, as promised, today we are going to talk about a slightly heavier issue than usual. So what's the topic, Ain?
It's cultural practices. Is it celebration or is it appropriation?
So this has been a prevalent issue, so to say.
Quite.
That because nowadays people around the globe has been really let's say woke.
Woke. What about different cultures?
Yeah, about the differences between cultures and whether to have a say in it or not. And we have also promised that this week
We will have a guest.
we will have a guest. Unlike the usual, just the two of us chit-chatting for 1 hour and then you guys got bored. So this week we will have some, insight from
A different view.
A
A different
view.
perspective.
not only different view but also a scholarly view
Yes.
about the topic. So joining us in the county today is Dr. Tengku Siti Aisha from the Department of Communication, IIUM.
Yay.
So doctor, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you guys?
Alhamdulillah, we are
Well,
good.
good, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guess?
Yeah, I haven't eaten.
It must be a hard week for you.
Yeah.
Quite.
It does seem that way, even though it's just like week 6.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's only week 6. So
Yeah.
you've got 9 more weeks to go.
Exams are looming.
Stay strong.
Yes,
self.
remember. know that.
Reminding myself constantly. Yeah. So, doctor, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background regarding this topic? Cultural.
How is it
practices.
relevant?
Okay, thank you very much, Amirul and Sain, for inviting me. This is, I think, my second time being interviewed here. I'm always glad to help out students. My name is Dr. Aisha. I'm with the Comm Department. Currently, I'm teaching intercultural communication, so I guess that's why you thought of inviting me.
Yes.
I've also been spending some time in the US. For 6 years, I was there doing my PhD. So I've got a little bit of experience in terms of how other people behave in their country and what are different cultural differences between Malaysia and also America, things like that. So I'm happy to help you out here to talk about this topic. I don't know whether it's going to be scholarly or not, but I hope our listeners can benefit from listening to this session.
Inshallah.
For your information, doctor, usually we talk about current issues, past,
Right,
present, and
right.
maybe some potentially rising issue.
Right.
But this semester, under some suggestion from the higher ups in the FM themselves, we kind of want to have experts,
Kinda,
quote unquote.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so-
People who have knowledge
people have
about
knowledge.
that issue.
Students can be experts too.
Yeah.
If
Yes,
the topic
yes.
is relevant to them.
Yeah. So that's why we are starting to call upon people who have
Right.
knowledge in this in those issues.
Right.
So yeah, that's a little bit of background about our reformatting. So, Ain, should we go on with the first question? I give the honor to you. I've
All
been talking
right.
a lot, I
Okay.
see.
So we're gonna start with the first question. It's very simple, but very important for us to discuss further about this issue.
Right.
Which is what is cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation?
Okay, I'm not an expert by any means, but
Okay.
from what I understand, cultural appropriation is when minority cultures try to adopt or adapt or use some of the elements belonging to the majority culture or something like that. And in doing so, they're actually claiming things that belong to them rather than the other culture. And for cultural appreciation, it's merely just minority culture maybe enjoying aspects or elements of the majority culture, or vice versa, without claiming that it comes from them originally. So I think with cultural appropriation, there's a lot of negative emotions that's associated with it, because at the end of the day, you are claiming to practicing something that belongs to other people and saying that it comes from you. And of course, it's practiced in many different areas, including films, including music, including lifestyle, and also in fashion and how people dress and things like that. So I think that's the difference between the two: appreciating or taking or claiming ownership. I think that's the difference.
Claiming ownership. Yeah, because you see, I think we've seen quite some uproar some time ago about this one student. She wore, I think it's sari, I guess.
In Malaysia?
That one I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Okay.
But she wore sari to a prom.
Right, prom night.
Yeah, prom night. And that actually incurred some uproar from the Indian community.
Okay.
So I believe because they say that it's their traditional dress and it shouldn't be made as a mere prom dress.
Right.
So this is really interesting to take on, because sometimes cultural practice now, people can actually differentiate them. So yeah. Between appreciation and also appropriation.
Right.
So like, how do we determine whether it's appreciation or is it appropriation? Because sometimes we don't know if that particular costume or is it that means something religious or have something like a meaningful value to that particular culture.
Right.
So how do we know that?
So yeah, again here it boils down to the person who's actually committing the act. We don't know what their reasons are for doing something, but if you're wearing another culture's costume out of appreciation, I think for prom it's fine. You're just saying that you think it looks good. I think I have read the news where you're talking about she was saying it just looks good, and I think it's fine for me to wear it. I'm actually paying an homage to the other culture, so I'm not saying it comes from my culture, so I think that's fine. But what happens in the US is when you're talking about minority culture, you got to remember that a lot of the elements of culture with it also comes a lot of emotions, history, and things like that. So for an African American person, when a white person appropriates their culture, that's something very insulting to them. And of course, when it's done by a celebrity, it's very salient. They've got a lot of followers, so people are following them, and it's not good because, for example, Kim Kardashian, she's not black at all, but she married a black person. She's been wearing the braids in her hair, and she's saying that it's part of her culture, so that's not true. And I think, like I said, because she's got a lot of followers, so people get confused, and I think for a lot of black women, how they wear their hair is symbolic to who they are as a person. So when you're saying that it's part of your culture, you are insulting us, because our hair, black hair, is very different from white hair. So I think again here it depends on the person doing it and why she's doing it. And like I said, Kim Kardashian is somebody who's a role model for a lot of people, so when she does things like that, it's very salient, and people are very quick to get very angry because it's very obvious.
So it's like we're stealing something from the other culture and like claiming it's ours.
Yes. And of course, when it's something that's so related or so symbolic of the other culture, when you're saying it's yours, like for example Eminem, he's very popular in hip hop, but the way he sounds, the way he sings is very similar to how an African American would sing, would rap, right? But some people will say it's actually a compliment to African Americans that a white person is trying to be popular in their genre of music. But at the same time, a lot of people are saying that he's copying them. He's not being original. Doesn't he have aspects of his own culture that he can bring into his music? So again, at the end of the day, it depends. And of course, when money goes into it, Eminem has made a lot of money rapping, so into that also comes the other question, why can't you be original? And at the place of some other young African American rapper who also wants to take your place. So I guess again it depends on the person doing it. Why are they doing it, and do they give credit to the other culture that they're appropriating in brackets?
I think cultural appropriation we can see more happening in the West, like for example in United States, where we have this Coachella event.
Coachella,
where people usually wear this kind of like a Native American outfit, and it's very insulting because they have like Native Americans have really bad past, and then they wear it for fun, for entertainment, which that's why it's called cultural appropriation.
Again, it's something sacred that you are not trying to make a trend of. And for example, Selena Gomez wearing the bindi, in one of the music videos. So I think for a lot of Indians, how they wear the bindi or wear, it's something that's very sacrilegious or related to their culture. So by doing that, she's actually complimenting the culture, but at the same time, who is she to, maybe a lot of people think, who is she to wear that kind of thing and making fun of our religion at the same time? I don't know. Okay. And of course, you were saying that it happens a lot in the U.S. A lot of recently, one case, a lady, she claimed she's black but she's white, and she's been getting a lot of financial assistance as a black minority person. So she's actually gaining something from claiming another identity, and it didn't come up until her parents showed a picture of her when she was young. So she's actually white blonde. And so I think she tanned, so she blackface.
I see.
So people thought, and I think she curled her hair so that it looks afro. So she's just this blue-eyed blonde hair lady, and she's claiming she's black. So it caused a lot of problems because she got a scholarship for black women, I think, to go to college. Yes. So that's where I think it starts to get a little bit iffy. So are you complimenting, or are you merely gaining something from pretending to be somebody you're not? Right?
Okay, now there's maybe one of the reasons why this whole debate about cultural appreciation and appropriation got raised up, because there are people who actually take advantage of it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we can see from the US perspective.
Right.
Let's shift our focus to let's say Malaysia, our country.
Right.
So you can see in a lot of, since Malaysia is a multicultural country, Malay, Chinese, Indians, then you have this Borneo. In Borneo you have like Kadazan, Ivan. And you can see if we actually try to immerse ourselves in their culture, it's considered as appreciation. Why do you think it's like that?
I guess things are a little bit different when you consider US and also Malaysia, because Malaysia, the history is very different from the US. So when you're talking about the US, Native Americans and African Americans always feel at a disadvantage. So being enslaved and being displaced from your own community and not gaining the same advantage as, you call it whitewashing, right? All the whites. So it's very different from Malaysia, I guess, where we are more, I think, living in harmony with each other. So multiculturalism is something that's very common. If you see certain places in Malaysia, like for example in Kelantan, Chinese people are there, they're a minority, but they speak very good Kelantanese and nobody ever says anything about that. So it's okay for them to be speaking Kelantanese dialect very thick, right? So people understand them, accept them, even though they're not Muslims. They mix around the locals and they sound like local, they eat local food, so there's nothing wrong. And I think we are so used to seeing multicultural families celebrate events together. Like for example, if you're Muslim married to a Chinese, you celebrate both Hari Raya and Chinese. And of course, in Malaysia, I think one thing that's very different is that we do tend to have public holidays for every race there is. So that's something I think that's really good, isn't it? So in a way, we're saying our identity as a Malaysian is very important. So just because you don't celebrate that Deepavali doesn't mean you can't, or it's wrong, and the connotation is very different. I guess the perception that you celebrate somebody's event or wear somebody's clothes. I think even in schools. I went to a co-ed school. Chinese girls were wearing baju kurung every day to go to school, so that's fine. It's part of the uniform, and I think they preferred it to the pinafore, some of them. So it's okay. So I guess the connotation, perceptions of cultural appreciation and appropriation is very much depends on the context. Also,
Societal context.
Right. Right, very good. Yeah,
I think I can agree to that because last semester I went to Turkey for an exchange program.
Okay.
And there, okay, let's say with the example about the holiday.
Okay.
And you can, when I went there, I feel like, where are the holidays? There's not really much time for holiday. Not many celebrations. I think so far they had Labor Day and also Children's Day.
That's it.
That's all.
There's no like cultural.
And also Aidilfitri, and that too only for 2 days.
Right.
Because that's how they celebrate Aidilfitri. They only celebrate the first day and the second day just for holiday, and the third day of Raya they already start working.
Right.
So it's very different from Malaysia. And I have another friend who comes from there, the same city, same university that I went. He came here and he's like, bro, I'm enjoying Malaysia so much. There's so many holidays and I love it.
Right.
Because of the holidays.
And you can see it's funny. The shopping malls for every major celebration would change, right?
Right.
And I remember a friend of mine, a white person who came to visit us. She was saying, "Why is Christmas more festive here than in America?" I said, I don't know. The shopping malls, during Christmas they're very festive and they change it. So I think it's a symbol of us trying to live together as a melting pot, at the same time trying to live in harmony. So we really enjoy trying each other's food, wearing each other's clothes, and celebrating each other's achievements. So at the end of the day, what comes first is our identity as a Malaysian. So I think that's really something very good about our society. I think that we should be proud of.
Yeah, and that's what makes us unique as well.
Right,
the uniqueness is there.
Even though we're multiracial, multicultural, we still can appreciate each other's culture without being offensive.
Right. So if it's done with respect, I think that's good. So you wear somebody's clothing with respect. People don't mind. They're actually flattered that you are taking an interest in
learning their culture.
Yeah. But I guess when people have different motives for doing things, like for example, Halloween, you wear blackface, that's very insulting. So what are you trying to say? And I think a lot of people, I mean, white people, they don't think about it. They just think it's fashionable to turn up as a, I don't know, as somebody different. And of course, it happens a lot in their media as well, where when you're casting for a character that's supposed to be Asian, but you cast a white person there, you cause a lot of problems. I think 2 actresses got into trouble because of that. One is Emma Stone. She was casted as a Asian character in a movie called Aloha. So and the character is supposed to be part Hawaiian and part Asian. So where does the freckles, the blue eyes, and the red hair comes in? So again, the director got into trouble, and I think the other person is Scarlett Johansson. She recently, I think, turned down a character. I think she was supposed to play a different. Yeah, I think a different gender. I'm not sure different gender or different race. Yeah, and she got into trouble and she had to pull out the movie because of that. She's producing as well. So at the same time, so it happens a lot, and I think
especially the West.
Yeah, in the US, and I think a lot of people are asking, why can't you find a capable actress or actor to play it? So same thing. I think I read the other day they were casting for Jasmine, Disney movie, and the actress is not Arab. It's black or Mexican. I can't remember, but there's a lot of problems with that as well. So it happens a lot in the West because they perceive it as you're taking away the job of somebody you can who is appropriate for the job and giving it to a white person who does not fit the character. You know, so there isn't a shortage of African American actors or Asian American actors, right? So and I think we should be proud that our Malaysian actor also recently got a role in the movie
Crazy Rich Asians? Is it
Hollywood movie recently?
The Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, Crazy Rich Asians. So that's not easy to do. They could have just casted a I don't know, somebody who looks Asian but is not. So it's good that it's a Chinese person. I mean, at least he's Asian who is casted in a movie for Asians.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Speaks a
really
lot.
a good thing.
So we can say that representation in media can be considered as cultural.
Yes, definitely a problem. Another area that it
Depends,
happens a
yeah.
lot, like I was saying, in music. So people like Iggy Azalea and I think Katy Perry has been accused of trying to
the
look cool.
Geisha?
By becoming more edgy by adopting or misappropriating other people's culture. So that happens very frequently in the media. Yeah.
So it's very important to be sensitive when
Right.
it comes to adopting their culture.
The
Right.
mutual respect
Yeah.
Right.
between each other.
Right. Right.
Because there are examples like I think a lot in fashion shows.
Okay.
They say it's inspired
Inspired
by
by.
some certain culture,
Right.
but then some costume represents like they reflect the history of that culture.
right.
So when the
Right.
fashion tries to sell this culture, they are gaining the profit, but
Right.
but the culture that they're adopting from,
They do not acknowledge. Or
yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
There's no credit given.
It's a good example. Yeah. Fashion also happens a lot.
Okay, so that's a very, I'm not gonna say long, but it's a very interesting and insightful, defining of the terms cultural appropriation and appreciation. As we learn how it differs from here and the Western countries,
Right.
where there are a lot of margin regarding the terms respect and also sensitivity. So yeah, we are going to discuss more, especially about how cultural appropriation is being portrayed, and also how what are the efforts that are being taken to actually try to
overcome,
not
solve.
halt, but you can say curb the problem. So yeah, for now we will take a short break. When we return, we will talk about what I just said just now. Yeah, so stay tuned to us, Tissues on IMFM.
Your campus radio. Hello guys, welcome back. You're listening to IIMFM, your campus radio. It's Thursday night, so it's
Yeah.
tissues. It's for
What? It's Tissues,
Yeah.
as Ain said. Quote Ain 2018. Yeah, that's a wrong APA reference. Okay, so we have been talking about cultural practices, celebration, or appropriation. Jeng, jeng, jeng. So let's not forget that we have a special guest tonight, Ain. Who is she?
Nazmi's lecturer. Dr.
Yeah, she is my lecturer.
Tengku Aisha.
Dr. Tengku Aisha, Tengku Azmar, and from the Department of Communication. IIUM.
Right.
So she's still with us, don't worry.
Yep. I'm not gone yet.
Going away.
I'm still here.
We still have more to listen from her. So, just now we differentiated between cultural
Appropriation and
and
cultural appreciation.
appreciation or celebration. And yeah, we drew a line of what's differentiating them, and also how cultural practice is viewed in Malaysia as well as in the Western, particularly the US.
Right.
So, right now, we are going to focus more on the Malaysian part. So, we've been talking about how it's different and how we actually celebrate and harmonizing the cultural practices. But, is there any cultural appropriation cases that has ever happened in Malaysia? So, Doctor, can you tell us if you know some?
I don't think they are, but there's been cases where people are accused of making fun of other people's culture. I don't know if you've been reading up about this, but a blogger was charged before this for, I think, making fun of the bakute during Ramadan. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So race is also something that's very, I think, sensitive in Malaysia as well. So you got to draw the line where you're trying to be funny, where you're trying to be entertaining, or if you're actually insulting the other cultures. He was, I think, making an ad about bakute during Ramadan. We all know it's not halal. So I think people were very upset about that, and he was charged. I think he ran away. Of course, he didn't turn up during his trial,
Right.
and he's in the US right now. So Yeah, so I think part of our constitution says that there are certain things that you can't talk about or can't make fun of, right? So Islam is the main religion in this country. So even if you want to celebrate Islam or talk about Islam, it has to be done with respect. So in this case, maybe people think that just because I talk about it on Facebook, nobody's going to notice, or how can I be charged? It's freedom of expression. I can say what I want, or I can just talk about other people's culture. I'm not insulting. I'm just trying to raise awareness and things like that. But yes, you can be charged if you actually make a lot of people angry. And as we know, Ramadan is a very important month, holy month for Muslims, and we don't like it if people make fun of our religion. So at the end of the day, it's fitna, right? You talk about our religion in such a way, so a lot of people are going to be angry.
Right.
So, but actual cases, I don't think so. Like I was saying earlier, I think one of the good things about our country in terms of its multicultural aspect is that we've sort of learned to live with each other in respect. So even if we say negative things, we don't really go as far as to insult somebody based on their race, or we do, but it's not as bad or as frequent, and people tend to be really try hard to, I think, not to do that.
So in Malaysia we have that. Is it a law? Is that considered a law?
Well, it's in our constitution, right? I mean, one of the things that we have to be careful about is not to insult the Sultan. The Sultan is recognized as the head of the country. The Agong, sorry. And Islam is the main religion, and Bahasa Malaysia is considered as national language. So those are things that we normally, we do talk about it, we do joke around, but we try not to go too far. So I think, so you can't disrespect people's religion. And I think because Malaysia is made up not just one or two, we've got a lot of different races as well. So we try to, I think, live in harmony with each other. So pretty much, I think it's not as bad as in the West or things like that. And like I said, Malaysians don't have the same history as United States or other countries where a lot of the minority groups feel really disadvantaged. One of the good things about us is that we all have the same opportunity for education, for facilities, for getting a job. So in this case, this different emotions are associated with appropriation. So I guess here maybe people perceive it as appropriation or trying to compliment the other culture, when in the West, when you do the same thing, it's perceived as insulting or trying to whitewash or things like that.
Okay.
Come to think of it, is it safe to say that cultural appropriation is kind of similar to racism?
Yes.
Is it a subset of
It can be a form of racism.
Yeah, maybe it's a form of racism. Again, here depending on the person's motive for doing so, but it's basically trying to adopt other people's culture, but the manner in which you do it, right? So in this case, if you appreciate African American culture, you don't have to blackface during Halloween. You can read about it. You can help the African American community. So again, same here. If you appreciate the Malaysian Malay culture, you can try their food. You don't have to make fun of them during Ramadan. So in this case, there are many ways of appreciating other people's culture, and you don't have to necessarily adopt and make fun of it or do. So in a way, if you do it in that manner, it can be perceived as a form of racism. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting, because I never thought of cultural appropriation being part of racism or vice versa, let's say.
Right.
Because racism, in our knowledge, that our understanding is like, for instance, in Malaysia, for like us saying the K word to the Indians,
right.
Maybe telling the Chinese that, quote unquote, China makan babi. So on. But these things, the subtle things, that people don't actually notice. Yeah, that's actually a part of racism.
Yeah, because for us, like, racism is such a serious issue, but when it comes to cultural appropriation, it seems petty. But it might not be
not
for
to the person
culture.
The culture is being appropriated from. I mean, if you're practicing it, you don't feel like I said, a lot of white people think it's okay to blackface during Halloween. We're just trying to be a character in a movie or something like that. But for a black person watching it, I don't like that. Stop doing that. That's insulting to me. So I think a lot of the things that you read on newspapers, probably you don't appreciate it unless you are you belong to the culture that's being appropriated from.
Right.
So in this case, I think we don't feel the same way because it's not our culture being appropriated, I guess, in a way.
Oh, okay. So when we talk about white people, you give an example about them blackening their face for Halloween. Their intention might be good,
Right.
but the way they do it, so it's like the means doesn't justify the means
Right.
don't justify the
Yeah.
end.
Right.
So when it comes to those cases, do you think that there's any law in the US prohibiting cultural appropriation, or there's none?
I think when it goes into the criminal area, then there's some laws preventing it. It can be perceived as a hate crime, can be perceived as fraud. Like, for example, I was telling you the case earlier of Rachel Dolezal, I think that's her name. She pretended to be a black person and she won a scholarship to, I think, Harvard, pretending to be a black person. And she was charged and she was getting welfare money by claiming she's black. So that's why you can prosecute her, because she's taking money that doesn't belong to her because she's not white. So again, here she's claiming she feels black on the outside and inside. She's black on the inside and should be on the outside, but that's not true. And I think that's where you can say that it's illegal. But like the example I gave you, white person pretending black for Halloween, you can't prosecute somebody for that, right? They may be an ass, but you can't actually charge them for that. So no, I guess it's very difficult to prosecute someone based on that. And again, here, like for example, if that blogger I gave you, I think he was charged with inciting something that's very sensitive. So I think there's a law in Malaysia. I'm not sure. You have to have a legal expert about that. But in Malaysia, there's certain things that you can't touch on or can't talk about, and they can actually prosecute you based on that. I think MCMC has been trying to update the laws with internet laws, where you can't just say anything you want. And I think you've read cases of people insulting the Sultan or things like that, being charged with saying things that are causing a nuisance or causing racial hatred or something like that. So I guess you can be charged if you're not careful and you insult the wrong person.
Okay. So can we say that freedom of speech? No. I mean, freedom of expression leads to these kinds of problems, cultural appropriation, racism, and the ever so explosion of it.
Right. I think it does in a way when you're so used to being in an environment where you can pretty much say anything you want. So I think the social media and internet is more difficult to sort of monitor with unlike traditional media, right? So everything happens at such a fast pace with so much information coming here and there. It can be difficult to actually monitor. So I think for you younger generation that's being you're so used to that kind of environment where you're digital natives, right? You grew up with the internet. It's something that's a habitual use for you. So maybe you don't think about the things that you say. And sometimes people say or do things that are inappropriate on social media. And part of it is because they feel that it's my account. I have the right to say what I want and things like that. I can cyberbully someone. I can say racial things. I can insult someone. It's my account, so I can do anything I want.
I think personally, even though it's called freedom of expression, it still has this limits and perimeter that we should take note of.
Of course,
because
it comes with responsibility.
Exactly, like what would you benefit from doing something that will cause hatred?
Right.
Right.
Especially if you're, I think, somebody who's famous on social media, YouTube celebrity that has a lot of followers, you say negative things, and you're actually teaching people that it's okay to be like that. And of course, when you have a lot of followers, you're actually being a role model to younger people. So it is a serious thing. It's not something trivial. So you should be careful what you say, what you do, how you behave. And just because you have access to internet and you can have a video cam, you can post a video every day, every second, doesn't mean you can you can just say what you want.
Again, it's a sensitivity that you have to know the boundaries.
Right.
There are lines that you just do not cross.
Right. Right.
Okay, so I think that's a bit of what we can say about cultural appropriation in Malaysia. There's not many cases in Malaysia, mostly in the Western countries, and also some maybe the issue of prosecution if somebody actually committed cultural appropriation and all. But yeah, so I think we can say that there are still a blurry line or gray area about how
Right.
to not control but maybe just simply contain the
Right.
act of cultural appropriation.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it begins with education. So
Right,
in this case, I think parents should, parents are controlling their children, right? So if your child wants to wear blackface, you have to teach them
Yes.
that that's wrong,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't do that. And if you are wearing the costume of a Native American person for Halloween, again here, that's wrong. So maybe you do it unconsciously because you think it's cute or you want to be different, but at the end of the day, you are teaching someone that claiming somebody's identity or pretending to be somebody you're not it's something that can be practiced. So it begins with just sort of like creating awareness or teaching your children the right thing to do or trying to why don't you just ignore, and if it's a trend, why do you have to follow it if you think that's wrong?
Right. I think lack of understanding is also
Correct.
a part of the problem. So
Correct.
like in order to overcome that, we need to teach ourselves maybe the history, because it plays really a significant role. The history, what does it do, the value of that certain attire, food, whatever.
Maybe it's very symbolic to a particular culture that has religious meaning.
Yes.
For example, the bindi, right? So people don't understand that. They think it's just cute or it looks
Pretty.
good or it's something that I saw and I want it and I want to look like that. So at the end of the day, you got to understand the culture first before you try to imitate or try to adopt or adapt. Is it something that's insulting, for example? Like, for example, if a white person wants to enter the masjid and they want to wear the hijab properly or baya, that's fine because you're encouraged to do that. But, dressing up as a terrorist during Halloween, that's another thing. That's just being an ass. So, so you have to appreciate and understand first before you start to adopt or adapt.
Yeah. So knowledge is very important in
Yes.
this.
I would say so.
Because without knowledge, I don't think anybody can understand
Right.
what is it about.
Right.
So I think we should take another short break. When we return, we will continue with maybe like one or two more questions, about whether cultural appropriation is something trivial or something very serious. Or maybe we can see, if we have time, we can look for certain solutions to this issue. So let's listen to Simple Plan, Welcome to My Life, on IMFM, your campus radio.
Assalamualaikum guys. I just want to give you guys a word of encouragement. If you're ever feeling down or disappointed with your results, or you're not doing so well in your studies, you failed your exams and whatnot, and your cumulative marks are very low, well, remember that Allah will not burden someone more than what he or she can bear, and that failing is normal for everyone. You can always struggle and work back up to be yourself at a better position, and it's a normal thing to fail. Just remember that. Keep on struggling. Never give up. Perseverance is the key. It also helps to know that the world is so big. There are millions of other people out there that are 100 times better than you and smarter than you, every other aspect. And knowing this and keeping this in mind about the others exist around us, it helps you. It entices you to, it gives you encouragement to struggle to gain more knowledge so that you can be on the same level as them intellectually. We are always in a state of constant learning. The important thing is to never give up. This is a message brought to you by DJ Daniski from IIUM FM. Have a nice day, guys.
Right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. We are back and haunting
We are
your
never away.
listening senses. Yeah. So I'm DJ Nazmi and
Me, DJ Ain.
yes, we are from Tissues VIP, only available on Thursdays 8:30 to 10 p.m. Yeah. So don't worry, we won't haunt you for too long from now. You can only meet us once a week anyway. All right. So that aside, we have been talking about what Ain?
Oh, a lot.
Art.
But basically about cultural appropriation and also appreciation, the difference, how do we determine whether something is considered to be appropriation or appreciation, and whether the the what else? Oh, the difference that we experience in Malaysia, and also the things that we see online happening in the West.
Yeah, and the practices and all.
The practices.
So, but then come to think of it, we didn't do it that much talking anyway.
I know.
Because we have our guest tonight, Dr. Tengku Siti Aisha from Department of
Communication.
Yeah. So right now we are going right off the bat. In your opinion, doctor, do you think that this issue of cultural appropriation, is it trivial or is it inclining towards something serious?
Right. So when it's covered by the media, some people may think at first glance it's not something that is such a big deal. It's just kids being kids, or it's just people being jerks or things like that. But at the end of the day, I think it can be something serious when you consider that we are teaching children or young people now about the correct values that we should practice in a multiracial community. So in a multiracial community, it's very important for you to, when you want to live in harmony, not to rock the boat. So in order to be sensitive, in order to appreciate each other, in order to live with each other in peace, I think one of the more important things that we have to think about is how we behave with each other. And if the cultural appropriation gets out of hand or is perceived negatively by the other groups, so it's not something you should practice on a regular basis. And I think if, like I was saying, if somebody's gaining profit from it by pretending to be somebody they're not, then it crosses the line between what's legal, what's illegal, what's ethical, what's unethical. So unethical, yeah.
So
Meaning it can lead to
something serious.
Something serious, right?
Right. If
So
it's
if not contained, it
right
it
or
may be-
managed or
yeah. Okay, that's true. Because, like we've discussed just now, if we don't have knowledge to understand the severity of this issue, the potential severity of this issue, I don't think anybody cares to.
Right. Everyone would be
Yeah,
selfish.
everybody would just be, oh, it's my choice.
Exactly.
right, it's my freedom to wear what I want, do what I want, or think.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes a
Right.
problem, actually.
Yes, it does. It can.
So we've been talking about the problem from the beginning. So, and I'm a sure believer that every problem must have a solution. Solutions.
Solutions.
Yeah. So let's see, is there any, in your view, that the solutions to the problem of cultural appropriation?
We talked about education just now.
Yeah, we
we
touched
talked
about education.
about education.
Yeah.
Maybe I can expand on that.
Yeah.
So encourage children to celebrate each other's festivities, invite them to try different food, invite them to wear each other's clothes, but at the same time teach them respect
Right.
and appreciation in such a way that it's not insulting or it's not can bring shame to or bring anger into the equation. So teach them respect on how to appreciate other people's culture in the correct way, and at the same time I think living in a multicultural society, maybe we can create campaigns on awareness and so start young in schools and teach children the right way to celebrate each other's differences and things like that. So education can be a tool, and of course being a communication teacher, I would say use the media the right way. So if you want to celebrate each other's differences, you can do so. I think our country is very good at that. Every year during Merdeka, there will be a fantastic amount of PSAs from different companies celebrating our differences, and that's not appropriation, that's appreciation. So using the media in the right way is also another way that you can use in order to counter negative aspects of cultural differences.
So, Ain, do you have any idea?
I think, and sometimes people would say that they want to raise awareness of that particular culture. I think you can have other ways to do it. Like, for example, instead of wearing the attire, you can just, take pictures of that community wearing it instead of you doing it. Because, for me, it feels like when people from other culture want to represent your culture, it's something weird. Like,
Yeah.
why would you wanna,
Right.
be our representative? We can be our
Right.
own representatives.
Yeah, we have our own voice.
Yes.
So I think that's why it's also perceived negatively in the West when a white person is trying to appropriate the culture of a black person. They already feel marginalized. They already feel that their voices are not being heard.
Yeah.
And when you cast a minority person, a majority person in a minority character, you're drowning their voice. You're saying,
Right.
I don't want to even listen to you, even when we're talking about your culture. So in this case, I think at the end of the day, give them a chance to voice out their feelings, and you can appreciate somebody's culture without actually claiming that it's yours or trying to take center stage when you should be highlighting the other person's
Right.
culture.
Yeah.
Right?
So we can say that this in terms of education as well. As well as being educated, we can help educate the people.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
about
Right.
the variety of culture, you know,
Right.
cultures, because there are still more to what we see. There are still more that to be explored, and
Right.
when we find them, it's up to the people practice them to
Right.
show the world what the
Right.
culture really are.
Right.
Right.
But you know, if we actually try to take the voice away from them, it's as if we are the colonizers.
Right, right.
In
Yeah,
some
sort
sense,
of.
yeah.
Yes.
Right. So this is the mentality of it, of this behavior, which is colonizing. So
Yeah.
white person is trying to still show that even after I don't know how many years, you're still thinking that you're superior
Yeah,
from the other minority groups, and you're trying to take away from them their identity even after that stage. And I think if you allow people just to adopt different identities, there's going to be chaos. What if there's already a lot of talk about gender bending and transforming into a different gender. Of course, that's prevalent in the West, but we don't want that to become a culture in Malaysia, where a male student or person decides that he's a female inside and start to dress differently, go into schools and start to demand different bathrooms. Recently, there was a lot of issue with that as well, right? Where the LGBT group was saying, if you don't allow us to claim our identity, where we don't even know which toilet we want to use and things like that. So they were saying, I want to go to the female toilet. The female
Right.
toilet doesn't want to accept us, so there should be an LGBT toilet. So again here, this also is very much related to identity. So if we allow people to switch their identities and claim parts of themselves that are not actually authentic or real, we're actually inviting other problems to come in.
Yeah.
And of course,
true.
you guys are coming from Islamic perspective, where I think Islam is very clear on that. There's no such thing as a LGBT thing in Islam, and I think we should be really careful about that when we may not think about it, but it's actually haram for a man to be wearing women's clothing and vice versa. So even though you play acting, you're doing something for fun, think about it. Yeah, so cross-dressing is not allowed in Islam, right? So think about it, and there's other ways to appreciate somebody's culture.
Right.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
you don't necessarily have to pretend to be somebody you're not to appreciate or to show your appreciation of other people's culture.
Right.
See,
Think-
do not pretend to be something that you
Or
are
not.
Right.
It's a
It's
really huge
deep.
message, especially to us. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so unfortunately, the time to quote our usual high school speeches, time is jealous of us.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we are at the end of our slot for tonight. But we have a really interesting discussion.
Fruitful
Thank you
discussion.
very much for spending your time with us.
It's my pleasure. I'm always happy to help you guys out. I hope it has been interesting to you guys,
Yes,
also the
very.
listeners out there.
Yeah, inshallah, it will be beneficial to all. So yeah, so that's it for this week. We have been talking about cultural practices, about the celebration and also the appropriation. And so next week, we do not know yet what to talk about. We will see. You will see what we have in store for you and who we might bring to accompany you on every Thursday night, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Yeah. So yeah, thank you to the listeners.
Thank
who
you
are
for
supporting us.
listening.
So, Ain,
Yeah.
the honor of concluding?
Didn't you just say that?
Yeah, I just did. Just giving.
But yeah, thank you again to Doctor. Thank you to the audience. It has been a very fruitful discussion. I guess that's all for tonight. So if you want to know what we're going to talk about next week, you have to stay tuned to us.
Two shows.
Yes,
VIP.
call in VIP.
Oh,
Right.
it's getting very mouthful.
Okay, so this is me, DJ Ain.
And me, DJ Nazmi, and
Dr. Tengku Aisha here.
Yeah. Signing out.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.